Hi, everyone. Welcome back. So, we've got an interesting topic today. So, I have to start off and ask, have you ever had one of those weeks where you just feel amazing? Like you could run a marathon, want to clean your house, take care of all the stuff. You're motivated, you have energy, your workouts feel great, you're sleeping great, you aren't craving every piece of chocolate in the pantry. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, the next week, you're all of a sudden you're exhausted, you're bloated, you're emotional, anxious, craving sugar, your jeans feel tight, and you're wondering what in the heck happened. If you've ever thought, I feel like I'm on a roller coaster, then this live is for you today. So, today we're going to talk about why this happens, why it's actually very common, especially for women in their 40s and older, and more importantly, what you can do about it. Now, before we jump in, one thing I always like to remind people is this: your body is not trying to sabotage you. Symptoms are communication. They're essentially our body's way of saying, hey, something has changed. So instead of asking, what's wrong with me, I encourage people to ask, what is my body trying to tell me? So that mind shift alone changes everything. So now let's talk about, why do we feel so different from week to week? So one of the biggest reasons is that hormones are not static. They're never static. They're constantly changing. Most women assume hormones only matter during their period or during menopause. The truth is, hormones are influencing you every single day. They affect your energy, your mood, your appetite, your digestion, your sleep, your blood sugar, your cravings, motivation. They affect recovery from exercise and ability to handle stress. They're literally involved in almost everything. Now, let's walk through a typical month. So, even if your cycle isn't perfectly regular or you're in perimenopause, there are still patterns that are worth paying attention to. So, first, let's start right after your period. For many women, this is when they feel their best, absolute best throughout the month. Energy improves, brain fog lifts, motivation comes back, workouts feel easier, and you feel more like yourself. This is often because estrogen is starting to rise. Now, around ovulation, which is mid month, many women continue to feel pretty good. So, confidence is higher, energy is higher. You may even start to feel a little more social. And then some women notice digestion improvements during this time. Then all of a sudden becomes, or all of a sudden, or then all of a sudden comes the luteal phase. So this is often where things start changing. So progesterone starts to rise, and for some women, that's wonderful, that's great. But for others, this is where symptoms begin. You may notice increased sugar cravings, increased appetite, bloating. You might find that you're constipated. Breasts may seem more tender than normal. You're noticing sleep is degrading and is becoming more problematic. You're noticing more anxiety, mood swings start to increase, water retention, and you notice like you did not suddenly lose willpower, even though it feels like that. Your physiology changed. It actually changed. Now, here's where it gets more complicated. So, hormones do not work in isolation. So, you want to think of them like members of an orchestra. If one instrument is off, the whole song is going to sound different. So while everyone wants to blame estrogen, sometimes estrogen isn't actually the problem. Sometimes it's poor gut health, sometimes it's stress, sometimes it's blood sugar swings, sometimes it's inflammation, sometimes it's poor sleep, sometimes it's nutrient deficiencies or a sluggish liver that's having a hard time processing hormones efficiently. That's why simply taking a hormone supplement does not always solve the problem. Now, Let's talk about stress. We couldn't have a live Facebook Live without talking about stress. Stress deserves its own conversation because it's one of the biggest hormone disruptors that I see. And I'm not just talking about emotional stress. A lot of people hear stress and they think of, well, I'm not really that stressed out. Your body senses all of these as stress, like not sleeping, under eating, overtraining, inflammation, digestive issues, blood sugar crashes, chronic pain, and even just worrying about your health is stress. So when your stress response stays activated, it can influence everything from cortisol to blood sugar to thyroid function to reproductive hormones. So sometimes what feels like a hormone problem is actually your nervous system waving a big white flag. So I also have to say your gut plays a bigger role than you think. So this surprises a lot of people. Your gut helps regulate hormones in several ways. It influences nutrient absorption. It helps eliminate used hormones. It affects inflammation. And it even plays a role in neurotransmitters like serotonin, which can impact mood. So if digestion isn't working well, hormones aren't either. Now, why symptoms can change month to month, because this is where people often get confused. One thing I hear all the time is, but last month wasn't that bad. There's not a problem. Exactly. Hormones aren't the only variable. Maybe work was more stressful. Maybe you weren't sleeping well. Maybe you traveled. Maybe you got sick. Maybe inflammation was higher. Maybe your diet was different. And that's a big one that I see. Diet changes. Like if you may notice that around the holidays where your diet is wildly different, or you may have more alcohol than normal, you'll notice that your hormones suddenly in the next couple of months take a hit. All of those things influence how your body experiences hormone changes. Now, what should someone pay attention to, the average person? So instead of trying to memorize every single hormone, start noticing patterns. Ask yourself, when do I actually feel my best? When do cravings start to show up? When is my sleep the worst? When do I feel anxious? When do I get headaches? When does digestion symptoms start to flare? These clues are actually valuable data. So I often encourage clients to keep a simple system calendar. So over 2 to 3 months, patterns start to emerge that you might not ever notice otherwise. So keeping a calendar, you can kind of take a step back and look and see, oh, okay, there's actually a solid pattern happening here. Now, the big question is what can you do? Rather than chasing every symptom, focus on building a strong foundation. You want to support blood sugar by eating enough protein and balanced meals. Prioritize quality sleep. Strength train a few times a week. Manage stress in ways that are realistic for you. Support your gut health. Address inflammation if it's present. Stay hydrated. These aren't fancy or glamorous things, but they can make a huge difference because they support the systems that hormones actually rely on. Now, when is it time to start digging deeper? If every month feels like you're surviving instead of living, if your symptoms start getting worse, if your periods are changing dramatically, if you're exhausted all the time, if you gain weight despite doing all the right things, or if your symptoms are affecting your relationships, your work, your quality of life, that's when it's worth looking deeper instead of assuming it's just hormones. Sometimes we uncover issues with blood sugar, nutrient deficiencies, thyroid function, gut health, chronic inflammation, or other imbalances that are contributing to how you feel. Now, okay, I want to leave you with this. Feeling different throughout the month can be completely normal. Feeling miserable every month is not something you simply have to accept. So, your body is always giving you information. The goal isn't to silence the symptoms, it's to understand what they're trying to tell you. If we can identify the underlying factors contributing to those symptoms, then we can often help you feel more consistent throughout the month. Not perfect, but much more like yourself. So I'd love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments what symptoms seem to change the most throughout the month. Is it your energy, your mood, your sleep, your cravings, digestion, or something else. Until next time.